mysterious virus begins spreading through mosquitoes. Initially, the infected show no symptoms, but over time, they go through 5 distinct stages. In the first stage, the infected develop obvious signs of infection. In the second stage, their bodies begin to bleed. In the third stage, the infected develop unexplained black necrotic blood and become aggressive. In the fourth stage, the infected fall into a hibernation-like state, showing signs of apparent death. By the fifth stage, the infected suffer severe brain damage and enter a state of rage, becoming extremely aggressive and attacking anything living in their line of sight. On day 33 of the outbreak, cities across the world fall one by one. In a military quarantine zone in Florida, Dr. Lauren, under orders from her superior, is tasked with leading a small team to a school to collect blood samples from 89 survivors, in hopes of finding a way to combat the virus. Before departure, the commander reveals a secret. Stage 1 infected individuals can be cured, but antibiotics are incredibly rare and only available for those deemed valuable. As for the 314 team assigned to escort them, the commander sees them as expendable, but Lauren was the last surviving medical professional with CDC certification in the world, carrying the weight of humanity's survival on her shoulders. Therefore, the commander insists that Lauren must return alive. Once on the bus, the navigator, Denise, warmly greets Lauren. Lauren heads to the back of the bus, opens her medical kit, and finds a phone inside. Just as she reaches for it, Gunnar hands her a baseball bat and tells her that their protective suits are equipped with radios, so they won't need the phone. He adds that she might need to assist them shortly. At this point, Lauren doesn't fully grasp the meaning of his words. The bus soon reaches the base gates. As the gates open, zombies swarm in, and everyone immediately opens fire. The zombies keep coming, and soon one clings to the windshield. Since Lauren has been sheltered in the base since the disaster began, this is her first encounter with the zombies, and she freezes in fear. Fortunately, Gunnar opens the door and shoots the zombie off the windshield, narrowly avoiding disaster. But just then, another zombie crashes through the door and lunges at Lauren. With no combat skills, Lauren is almost defenseless, but Gunnar quickly intervenes, shooting the zombie and saving her. The danger isn't over yet, as several more zombies crawl into the bus. The group works together to eliminate the zombies, and they finally manage to break free from the horde. Denise asked if everyone was okay, and suddenly, at the crucial moment, it was Gunnar who grabbed an axe and killed the zombie. The group is shaken but alive. Gunnar is highly dissatisfied with Lauren's performance. They need to work together to survive the zombie attacks, but if Lauren continues to stand aside and avoid fighting, she will jeopardize the whole team. As they approached a fork in the road, a disagreement arose among the group over which route to take. The original plan was to head through the suburbs, but a team member pointed out that the area was overrun with hundreds, even thousands, of Stage 5 infected zombies. If they went through the city, they would only encounter Stage 2 and Stage 3 infected, which would be easier to deal with. Lauren insisted on sticking to the original route, but Gunnar disagreed. He wanted to take the city route for another reason. He was searching for the missing 313 squad. Though Lauren was the highest-ranking officer in the group, Gunnar, frustrated with her earlier actions, chose to ignore her orders. As the bus reached a street in the city, a survivor stopped a truck and asked for help. Seeing that the woman didn't appear to be infected, Lauren opened her medical kit to examine her, while Gunnar stood by, keeping watch with his gun. Fortunately, the woman was not infected. However, when they tried to help her get away, they discovered her foot was stuck in a manhole cover. Gunnar's expression changed instantly, and he told Lauren to back off, but Lauren was still focused on helping the woman. It turned out that Stage 3 infected individuals still possessed a certain level of intelligence, and the woman was a trap they had set. The woman was shot in the head, and at the same time, all the Stage 3 infected who had been lying on the ground playing dead suddenly got up and charged toward them. With the zombie horde closing in, Wheeler floored the gas pedal and sped off, leaving Gunnar alone to fight the zombies. At the last moment, Lauren opened the bus door, and Gunnar, after taking care of the zombies around him, ran back to the bus and made it inside just in time. Looking out the window, Lauren saw many refugees on the streets, seemingly normal, but they were all infected. Stuck in Stage 2, they had resorted to any means necessary to survive. According to incomplete reports, over 2.5 billion people worldwide had already been infected. Suddenly, Gunnar noticed a bus parked by the side of the road. When Wheeler showed no signs of stopping, Gunnar pointed his gun at his head. It turned out that this bus was the 313 team's bus, and Gunnar's wife had gone missing here. When the bus came to a stop, Gunnar went inside alone to search, but there were no survivors. At the back of the bus, he finally found his wife's lifeless body. Seeing her mangled form, Gunnar couldn't hold back his tears and broke down sobbing. Just then, Wheeler noticed movement on the roof. Lauren, curious, stuck her head out to look, and everything seemed normal outside. But just as she turned her head back, Lauren began to struggle violently. In the end, Denise used a flare gun to set a zombie on fire, helping Lauren escape the danger. Lauren grabbed a steel pipe from the ground and killed one of the zombies, while Gunnar returned just in time to deal with the last one. Seeing that Lauren had finally shown some growth, Gunnar nodded with satisfaction and reached out to pull her up. Back on the bus, Gunnar remained silent, his wife's death weighing heavily on him. The group continued on, and after a while, Gunnar asked Lauren if she knew that Stage 2 and Stage 3 infected would eat people. Lauren admitted she hadn't heard of that. Thinking back to how she couldn't even handle basic first aid earlier, the group began to question Lauren's true identity. Eventually, they reached their destination. They just needed to collect blood samples from the 89 survivors, and they could leave. But after searching for a long time, they found no signs of anyone being there. To speed up the process, the group decided to split up. While in the restroom, Lauren found a body and, after taking a phone from the corpse, skillfully entered a series of numbers.
Megan? Megan, sweetheart, is that you?
Mom?
Hi, baby, how are you?
Mom, is that you?
Yes.
It turned out that Lauren's true mission was not just to help find a cure, but to search for her own husband and daughter, Megan. When the disaster struck, Lauren's husband and daughter were trapped in the suburbs. Megan told Lauren that her father had gone out a few days earlier to search for help but hadn't been heard from since. Hearing this, Lauren's mind was completely thrown into chaos. All she could think about was getting to her daughter as quickly as possible. But just then, the phone call was suddenly cut off. Denise arrived shortly after, thankfully unaware of the conversation Lauren had just had. Denise then called for the other two team members. It turned out she had found a locked door inside the building. As Gunnar and the others tried to break it open, Lauren entered a classroom and found a woman sitting on the floor. She couldn't resist walking over to greet her. The woman was visibly emotional upon seeing Lauren and desperately begged her to take her child. At this moment, Gunnar arrived with his gun. He instructed the woman to place the child on the ground for a blood test. When they examined the baby, they realized it had already mutated. Lauren had no choice but to explain that they couldn't take the baby with them. Unexpectedly, the woman lost control and attacked them. Fortunately, Wheeler reacted quickly, stabbing the woman to death with a knife. The group then managed to break through the locked iron door, but they were too late. All the survivors inside were lying on the ground, either dead or in a fourth-stage hibernation. As they were about to retreat, Wheeler noticed several figures moving ahead. The group panicked and began to flee. Denise found a fire hose and tried to block the door, but it was clear it wouldn't hold for long. Fortunately, Gunnar, a local from Florida, used his agility to lure the zombies away from the nearby changing room. Gunnar then led the group into a classroom. After shattering the barricaded window with a shot, Gunnar handed the shotgun to Lauren, telling her to go ahead while he stayed behind to cover their escape. More and more zombies arrived, quickly knocking the weapon from Gunnar's hands. Despite his desperate resistance, he was overwhelmed and died in the hands of the zombies. After escaping, Wheeler, Lauren, and Denise argued. Wheeler demanded the shotgun from Lauren, but when she refused, he abandoned them and fled alone. That night, Lauren and Denise found a warehouse to hide in. Lauren couldn't stop thinking about her daughter and expressed her desire to go to the suburbs to search for her. She then revealed the truth to Denise. It turned out that Lauren wasn't a doctor at all. After the outbreak, she had stolen a doctor's ID in the chaos. She had been pretending to be a doctor just to search for her daughter. At this point, Denise, also a mother, didn't blame Lauren. Instead, she decided to help her find Lauren's daughter. They went to the shelves to gather supplies, but suddenly, they heard something crash behind them. Denise urged Lauren to quickly turn off the light on her helmet, but the next second, a zombie appeared and knocked Lauren to the ground. Fortunately, Denise rushed over and helped her. Once Lauren was freed, she grabbed a hammer to fight back, but then, the zombies disappeared. In the darkness, the zombies didn't seem to notice them and gradually moved away. Just as Lauren and Denise breathed a sigh of relief, the zombies returned and charged at Denise. At the crucial moment, a spear pierced the zombie's skull. It was Wheeler, who had a change of heart and returned to help them. They then contacted the 313 team's doctor over the radio. Upon learning that the doctor had a vehicle, Lauren, Denise, and Wheeler decided to head to meet them. At that moment, Denise noticed the wound on Wheeler's abdomen and realized he had been attacked on the way. Becoming a stage 1 infected, Lauren explained that the base had medication to treat stage 1, but before they could go to the base, Wheeler had to accompany her to the suburbs to find her family. Wheeler had no choice but to agree. Already infected, he took off his protective suit, but as they were heading to the suburbs, a taxi suddenly attacked them, and Denise was taken away. By the time Lauren caught up, they had brutally dissected Denise's body and were starting to devour her flesh and blood. Seeing this, Lauren was consumed with rage. She shot them all with the shotgun, continuing to vent her anger on their bodies, smashing the man's head into a bloody pulp. Wheeler, who had arrived, held Lauren in his arms to comfort her. Soon after, Lauren and Wheeler met up with the doctor from the 313 squad in the garage. Just as Wheeler was about to start the ambulance, the doctor noticed Wheeler's wound. Taking advantage of Lauren turning around, the doctor grabbed a fire extinguisher and struck her in the head. Worried that Lauren and Wheeler were stage 3 infected, the doctor made a decisive choice to abandon them and drove off in the ambulance. Fortunately, there was another ambulance in the garage. Lauren and Wheeler managed to start the vehicle just in time, racing out of the garage, crashing through zombies to escape. The ambulance sped along and soon reached Lauren's former home. Fortunately, her daughter had been waiting inside, quietly and obediently. However, after conducting a virus test, Lauren discovered that Megan had already been infected. Lauren didn't tell her daughter, instead using the excuse of needing to gather supplies before leaving her behind. Megan was still in stage 1 of the infection, so there was hope for treatment back at the base. Then, Lauren followed the trail of blood and discovered her husband, dead in the trunk. In his hand, he tightly gripped a camcorder, which contained his final message to his wife and daughter. As Lauren was lost in grief, Wheeler noticed the zombies were closing in on them. He honked the horn to warn Lauren, urging her to hurry. Lauren quickly took off her protective suit and put it on Megan, but as soon as she opened the door, zombies burst in. To protect her daughter, Lauren no longer hesitated. Together with Wheeler, they managed to escape to the second floor and barricaded the door to keep the zombies out. The mother and daughter then climbed out of the window, but when Wheeler tried to follow, he slipped and broke his leg. Seeing the zombies swarm closer, Lauren had no choice but to leave Wheeler behind. Mother and daughter escaped in the ambulance, speeding through the zombie horde and heading toward the base. However, when they arrived at the base, another massive group of zombies had gathered at the gates. Seeing the guards rush out to clear the area, Lauren immediately stopped the ambulance and tried to find help. Since Lauren wasn't wearing protective gear, the soldiers mistook her for an infected and attacked her. She died on the spot. At this point, the soldiers noticed the code on Megan's protective suit and reported it to the commander. When the commander learned it was Lauren, he immediately ordered her to be taken to isolation for treatment. Unbeknownst to them, the real Lauren had already died. As Megan was brought into the base, humanity had long since lost any hope of winning the war.